So, we've spoken about data, which is programming is all about manipulating information. We've spoken about the different kinds of information, right? So we have strings and numbers and booleans, and then we've spoken about how to access that information with variables, right? That's how I keep track of the information throughout the course of my program. Now we are going to start talking about what we can do with that information, which is operations. So I said before that, right? So we have a couple of different data types, and each data type. So this is going to be this is going to be lesson 3. And we're going to start with math. We're going to call this math ops, which are the operations, which are the mathematical operations we can do. So in general, we can do different sorts of operations. We can do different operations, but remember that we have core data types, which means that no matter what we do to our data, we want to get back to one of our data types, right? Because I give you a 4 and a 3. So you say 4 plus 3, 4 plus 3, and then we put them together, right? And we end up with 7. So 4 and 3 are going to make 7, right? 2 and 2, we get 4. Now those are all numbers, which means we're doing some operation. We're taking 2 and we're adding another 2 to it, and we're getting back 4, which means we're getting back a different number. So whenever you do an operation, you have to think about the data type going in, the data types going in, and the data type coming out at the other end. Those are always things you have to consider. Now, not necessarily is every operation going to take in 2 data types, and not necessarily is every operation gonna give us back a data type, or might give us back multiple, or might not give us back enough. Keep that idea in the back of your mind, but don't worry about it now. For now, we're just focused on the basic ones, and we're starting with the math operations. So, math operations. What are the basic math things that you can do? You can add, right? And you'll notice here I'm not storing this in a variable, so we're not actually going to get back any results. So we'll print these out. So we'll print these out as we go. So we can add, we can subtract, we can multiply, we can divide. Those are some basic ones. So we can subtract, we can multiply, and we can divide. Let's divide 10 by 5. All right. So now notice here I'm not using the if name equals main. I'm just writing some basic code. It still works if I do the run thing. This is not good practice, but right now we're focused more on the operations that we can do. Notice here how I'm not storing any of the information into a variable. I'm just running it. Now, because of how variables work, variables actually reference a number. So all of these basic operations I can do with a number. I can do them with a number as well. With variables as well. So if instead of doing all this, I say a equals 5, b equals 10, b equals 4, and now I replace all of my 4s with b's. Right, so I just go b, 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 and b, and I replace all my 5s with a's. Now, what do you expect to happen? Do you think that it's going to print out everything the same way? Or will the value of A or B change once I run this code? So I run the code again, and notice how nothing changes. The code is exactly the same, even though instead of saying 5 and 4, I'm now saying A and B, right? These are variables, but they have set values, and the value itself isn't changing. I'm just doing an operation with the value that gives me back a different number, which is cool and useful, right? But what happens if I want to change the value of one of my numbers, right? What happens if I want to store the end result of A plus B? Or what happens if I want to change the value of A to be A plus B? So what I can do instead is I can go A equals A plus B. And now, if we go and print A at the end of this, and just to make it a little bit easier to read what's going on, I'm going to comment out those lines so those lines don't happen. So I create A, I create B, and then I add A, and then I say A equals A plus B, and I print out A. and it wants a blank line. That's not required, but it's just good practice to do. We run that, and we get back the number 9. Because now the value of a has actually changed to 9. So if we take this line, put it at the top, and run all these basic math things again, the value is actually changed, right? I run this, and that is not the same results we were getting last time. Why? Because the value of a has changed. Now, there is one more really important operation that you need to learn, and then there's other mathematical things that we can do. So if you want a complete list of mathematical operations we can do, you go to this, or not necessarily a complete list, but a more complete list. We go to pythoncheatsheet.org, and you take a look over here at Python cheat sheet, and there's a bunch of different things. We're going to go to basics. These are the mathematical operations that they teach us about. So plus, minus, multiplication, division, integer division, which is the same thing as regular division, except it always gives us back a whole number. So in our case over here, where integer division, regular division is going to be 0.44. If I do integer division, which is the same two numbers, which is going to be 5 divided by 9. If I run that, it just gives me back a 0. Chops off my endpoint, and that's it, right? But what happens if I swap these around? If I do a divided by b, just to give you an idea of what happens if it's bigger. A divided by b, and we run that. It's 2.25, and it's 2. So those are both below the threshold, so they go. All right. That is division and integer division. The difference is whether or not it's going to cut it off. And then the last two we have to deal with are exponents, which I don't know if you're aware of or not, but exponent is to the power. It's the little number on top. So you'd go 5 squared, right? So 5 to the power of 2, we run that, and that gives us back 25. And then, of course, we have one more. We have modulo. Modulo is kind of weird. No. Sorry, I should really turn these off. Sorry about that. Okay, modulo is kind of weird. Modulo is kind of weird and special, and so I'm going to do a short video on it by itself because it's a really important thing to cover. But these are some basic math operations, and keep in mind that you don't have access to them. Sorry, that you don't have to do anything special. They will result in a number. That number then gets printed out over here, or that number can get stored. But in general, we are going to be using these to, we take a number, we take another number, we do some math on them, and we get back a third number. That's how math works. And I'm saying that, and it sounds weird to say it that way, but the moment we start talking about logic, it will make a lot more sense that I said that about math. So, next video is going to be about modulo, and then we'll go on to talk about logical operations, which are a little bit different and a little bit more complex.